Good morning and welcome to episode 6, chapter 5 of the story. This morning's chapter is called The Sister, and I'm honored to share it, and I hope that you enjoy. So there are some people in this life that when you meet them, they are so innately, genuinely full of joy that it catches your attention. And we all know who these people are. And when you meet them, you're like, how are you so happy? That's my sister. A prime example. When I was probably 7 or 8, we were just easily entertained. You've heard that from previous chapters. So I was 7 or 8 and we were at home and it was in the morning. We're getting ready for school. And Danielle and I just thought that making breakfast and playing like English tea time, well, that was our favorite thing. We would play communion sometimes, we would play tea time, coffee time, all the times. So we loved making tea, and we were pretty little. So I was probably 7 or 8, and I have a big kettle on the stove, and Danielle and I are making toast and tea, and very unfortunately, when I took the kettle and I turned around, I bumped into her and like sloshed hot water completely down her chest. And like bad, like burn. Not like, thank goodness it wasn't a terrible, terrible life scarring burn, but it was definitely a burn. And we took care of it and calmed her down, and I went to school and felt terrible. And by the end of the day, I came home. She wasn't in school at that time. I got home and I just said, I'm so sorry. And she just smiled and was laughing, and she just said, that's okay. I mean, that's my sister. She is so genuinely happy and full of joy. And a lot of people are jealous of that, I know. So she is 3 years younger than me, and she has been full of life ever since I can ever remember. Growing up, she was definitely my best friend, looking back. We never really said that. Of course, I had other best friends. Your sister can't be your best friend, but she was absolutely it. We did everything together. The things that she and I have encountered in our lives, all before the age of 18 for me and 15 for her, they're numerous and nearly indescribable. We've experienced adventure and pain, trauma, abuse, healing, renewal. I mean, we have circled and run the gamut. It's pretty extraordinary that we've experienced what we have. So, I'm going to jump into some of these things that we've experienced. As you recall from previous chapters, we grew up in the middle of nowhere, and three-wheelers and quads, four-wheelers, go-karts, all the outdoor toys, they were absolutely a part of our lives. So I remember this one time when Danielle and I, we got home after school, and what else did we do? We fired up the three-wheeler, and we went, joyriding wherever we could. And I remember, remember a strange kid. I was obsessed with buses and RVs, and I loved pretending that the three-wheeler was a bus. And I would have her get off and get back on, and we'd go, and I'd make a stop, and I wanted to see how slowly I could make the corners, and oh my goodness, it's probably why I'm alive today, because instead of treating the three-wheeler as a three-wheeler, Darren pretended that it was a bus, because why not? So Danielle and I are just out trekking the wilderness and exploring, and I remember we came to this embankment, and we start going up, slowly of course, and we just tipped over, and we rolled down the hill, the two of us. Not wearing helmets. We're just out and about doing our thing. And at the end of it, we are like, we're definitely bruised up. The three-wheeler died and it's like over somewhere. And Danielle and I just sit up and start laughing. We just laughed all the time. There's another time when we got home from school. I was a little older. And Dad or my grandpa, I actually can't even remember, had this new, well, old, but new to us, little blue car. It was a Dodge Colt, and it was really fun to drive. And so Danielle and I, well, we need to try out this new car, right? So my dad, because of his business at our property, had these large piles of sawdust. And when you compact them down hard enough, they're not really super loose. So it's like a mound. And we had the brilliant idea to jump the blue car off of this mound. So here we go, and we're strapped in, and we went for it, and oh my gosh, it was the funnest thing. So we did it again and again, and on the next time, we made the jump, and I had overshot, gone too fast, I don't know, and the car went over this jump and landed on its bumper, the front bumper, and then it kind of leaned back into the hill. And Danielle and I are just kind of dangling from the seatbelt, holding us in, and again, just laughing. There were no rules, and we did whatever, and our whole goal was to have fun and laugh. How hard can we laugh? That was our mission of every day. We pushed it off the pile and put it back, and Dad never knew. It was already pretty beat up. Here's another good one. A time when we laughed until we almost peed our pants. So my dad had this friend who was storing her travel trailer on our property, and it was supposed to have been there for only a while, like a short time, but it ended up being like months and months. And my dad was so mad, and we talked about it all the time and whatever. So Danielle and I one day, I think it was after school, all the shenanigans happened after school. We decided to trespass into this trailer. It just looked like it was full of stuff. We had looked through the windows many times. And one day we just opened the door and it opened. So we went into this travel trailer and we're looking around, and of all the things that we found cases of dust off. Like the canned air that you use to blow out your keyboard and whatever. Swear, we did not know that huffing dust off was a thing at the time. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have internet, none of that stuff. And we certainly didn't have friends doing that we knew of. Danielle and I started this little kind of war with dust off on each other, and we were just spraying each other, just wasting all of it. And somehow we discovered that if you put it in your mouth, it made your voice really, really low. I mean, like really low. And I think that is maybe one of the hardest times we've laughed. We laughed so hard. We were taking dust off. We didn't get high or anything. We didn't use enough to do that. But our voices were so low, and we were just and whatever we could say or come to mind, we did it. There are several other memories of us playing with helium balloons, kind of the same thing, makes your voice super high, and we just would laugh and laugh and laugh. So, I mean, we just never stopped laughing. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, we just didn't. One time we were at a Chinese restaurant. It was Christmas. It was just the three of us, my dad, Danielle, and me. And we saw something in that restaurant that made us laugh so hard. My dad got mad and made us go outside in the snow, would not let us be at the table until we came back in. We just laughed and laughed and laughed. And I remember he was really mad about that, actually, really mad. We kind of tended to make Dad upset quite often. We were little pranksters, always finding the next laugh, the next thing to get into. I mean, we lived in the middle of nowhere, so how else were we going to keep ourselves from dying of boredom? And it wasn't really either of us individually that caused sort of this upset with Dad. It's not like Darren was a little mischief maker or Danielle was. It was kind of always us together. It was just, we were this little team. On top of everything, my sister, growing up, she had, unfortunately, she had some pretty hefty learning disabilities. Learning to read was really difficult for her. I remember that we had taken a lot of steps to try and get her to read better. I remember hooked on phonics and flashcards, and we would read to her and all kinds of stuff. And it was just, I know it was really hard for her. And what made it harder is that her two bigger brothers, everyone kind of talked about us as being smart kids. Those boys are just so, so bright. And I know that really kind of hurt her, because she wanted so badly to just read better. And I know that she tried her damnedest to do it. And it was always really, really difficult for her. And on top of that, unfortunately, again, my sister, bless her heart, has struggled with her weight her entire life. We all ate the same thing growing up, the same dinner, same breakfast. And it's a testament that sometimes weight gain is just, it's not somebody's fault sometimes. She struggled with her weight all the time, and that led to her being made fun of and just really struggling with her self-confidence, her self-esteem, self-love, and it was hard to watch. But what's interesting is that, everyone has struggles in life. Danielle's happened to be those, learning disability and some weight issues. The thing is, she knew that she could still make people laugh. And she still does today. She's very good at it. And again, she's just that happy, genuine person. However, the laughter sort of went away for a period of our teenage years. Our home life was not good. And there were many reasons for that. Our dad was working super hard to make his new company really take off. And he ran into some very unexpected, super brutal financial times. And he is a fighter. He's not going to let that take him down. So he was working like 16, 18-hour days, no kidding. And, we were in middle school. And that's hard on your family when you're doing that, especially when you're a single dad at the time. He'd get angry and he would lash out. I think that, sometimes verbally, sometimes physically, but it was a lot. But Danielle and I we would always be there for each other. We would hold each other. If I was crying, she'd help me. And if she was crying, I'd help her. It was a lot to endure as brother and sister growing up. And because we were experiencing all of this, unpleasantness at home, we spent as much time at church as we could. The youth group, with our youth minister, doing all the things. We went to every church camp, youth rally, youth get-together, youth trip. We were at them all. And I sometimes forget when I am telling my story that, I use myself as the example of going through all of this sort of a lot of church. But Danielle was right there beside me. She went through all of it as well. And, we were actually even baptized together in the same lake in, I'm pretty sure it was 2006. And, so that was like a whole other level of this special bond that my sister and I had. So all of this to say, I could go on and on and on and on with stories, but we were very close growing up. Extremely close. And actually, one more thing, on top of all of that, we were dealing with a very turbulent mother. For the majority of my teenage years, and especially Danielle's, Dad was a single dad. We were going through all of the court and custody battles. We were guilted by our mother all the time and shamed because we were choosing not to be with her and stay with Dad, and that made us bad people because we were choosing to be part of this sick family and this terrible situation, and just like so much that we were dealing with. And but it's interesting because also looking back, being without a real mother figure in our lives brought Danielle and I even closer together. So in my story of my sister, there are a lot of laughs. We were very close and we were very together. But there was a situation that happened when I was 17 and she was 14 that brought us very close together. And Danielle and I we ended up at the direction of the Department of Human Services. Danielle and I were sent to live in the foster care system. And we were beyond fortunate that it ended up being that we lived with my aunt and uncle. Very good people, and they took very, very good care of us. Um, and thankfully, that entire situation, the reason that we even went to foster care in the first place, it kind of worked itself out. It definitely did. And some forgiveness was given, a lot of tears were shed, and we've done our best to heal from that and move on. So a lot happened in our growing up years. So when I went off to college, as it tends to happen, very sadly, my sister and I we didn't keep in touch as much. It just makes me cry. We went from experiencing everything together to I went off to college, and we really weren't, we didn't talk to each other that much. And through, just through happenstance, she kind of ended up hanging with the wrong crowd. And it led her to, in a dangerous direction, which ultimately led to some very real life situations that had to be faced and challenges that had to be worked out. So long story short, my sister was sent to this teeny tiny sort of reform school. It was a high school out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're talking the town had a population of 25 people. Teeny tiny. But thank goodness, because it was that high school that gave her what she needed to sort of clean up her act and keep going. So during high school, she did really great, and she graduated, and we were all very, very proud of her. Those learning disabilities, she had overcome those, she'd worked through them, gotten the help she needed, and she graduated high school. However, after high school, for whatever reason, that crowd that had kind of led her astray in the beginning, they were still around. And one thing led to another, and she ended up hanging out with them again. So while I was in college, Danielle went through some pretty rough patches. Bad relationships, trouble with the law, drugs, and it all just infiltrated my sweet little sister's life. It was a very difficult time for all of us, especially me. I felt really guilty. I wasn't there. So if I had been, would this have happened? I don't know. But looking back, there's hardly a reason as to why she was making the decisions that she was. Her entire life, she had done her very best to always be happy, always be optimistic, always be full of joy. But there came a point when laughter for her was just not cutting it anymore. And as life tends to do, life just kept throwing one thing right after the other at her, and there's no wonder why she cracked. Things were definitely not great for a while. Nobody recognized her anymore. The hole that she was digging for herself just kept getting larger and larger. And as the saying goes, there came a time when she finally hit rock bottom. I think that any deeper a hole probably would have just completely swallowed her life. But thankfully, rock bottom worked its magical wonder, as it tends to do sometimes, and it became the solid foundation on which she started to climb out. Today, I am so thankful to say that I absolutely recognize my sister. She's happy, she's healthy, she's living a really good life, and she is laughing all the time. And she has the best laugh, y'all. When I reflect on the experience of our childhood, I'm very deeply humbled and thankful that the universe gave me my sister to go through all of this with. And I'm grateful for everything that my sister has taught me. You know, for the most part, every person on this planet wants to feel loved and connected. That's what we want. We want to feel loved and connected. And life happens, and the challenges that we face, sometimes they make us, and sometimes they break us. And often with those challenges, whichever way we come out, labels, identities, and stigmas, you name it, they're placed on us. And sometimes we place them on ourselves, and sometimes they're placed on us by other people. But for some reason, we buy into them. Oh, that's what you think of me? Oh, okay. I want to feel loved and connected. And it's hard. Despite being an innately genuine, joyful, happy person, my sister experienced many labels being placed on her that led her to do things and make choices that I don't think that she ever would have had those labels never found their way into her life. Labels like chubby, dumb, not smart enough, victim, foster kid, thief, druggie, worthless, you name it. These labels, they came into her life. And for a while, they definitely had power over her and her life. And it was hard to watch. But they don't anymore. One of the biggest inspirations in my life has been to watch my sister drop and redefine every label, identity, and stigma that was placed on her. Through the very rough work that comes with changing your life, she has done a 180. She's been clean and sober for years now. She has surrounded herself with good people, really good people, and the best part, she is actually now a mama of the most beautiful little girl, and she is a damn good mother to that baby. When I am with my sister, or whenever we talk on the phone, I just grin from ear to ear because I hear her laugh again. I hear her giggle and we joke and we just keep laughing. Just like we always used to. Just like all those happy memories from our childhood. She is a shining example that the story that was yours does not have to be yours. Like, of course, she still deals with the story that she had sometimes, but it doesn't get her down because she knows the story that she is writing now. Obviously, you can't rewrite or erase the story that you've lived. That's really unrealistic. But you can redefine what it means to you and how it impacts your life. And you can especially start writing a new one. Thank God that Danielle was willing to pull out a blank page and start writing the kind of story that she wanted to have. It certainly inspired me to do the same, and I hope that it does you too. So that's the story of my sister from my book, The Story. Thank you all so much for watching. It means so much. Next week, we have a really special episode, and I do have an announcement next week that I'm excited to make. So with that, go have a beautiful day. It's really kind of dreary and rainy in Seattle, but I think we're all right with that. It was really hot this last weekend, and we live in Seattle for a reason. We don't do so great with the heat. So Have a great day, and I will see you next week.